Good morning and welcome to another edition of Free Association Radio's 15 Minutes of Flame. I'm Robert Phoenix. Sorry we're off to a late start today. I had some problems, a little bit of problems with the old computer, booting up the technology, so we had to reboot, and rebooting has some challenges sometimes. Just like a life reboot has some challenges sometimes. You have to go through the old programs and shut them down. And then you can reboot. So we're going to talk a little bit today about topics near and dear to my heart. First of all, I want to thank everybody for kind words of support for the kind of the new version of the show here, which we're doing every single day at 9 a.m. or mostly 9 a.m. I've been getting some really good emails, some good feedback, and some synergies happening. A couple days ago, I talked about the whole trans phenomena, and I had a really interesting email from a client/reader who is a parent of a child who is non-identifying. So he has offered to come onto the show on Friday, and we're going to talk. We're going to find out what it's like to be a parent of a child who is going through one of these experiences. Let's put it that way. And we're going to see what it feels like and be very candid and very honest. And I know him, and he's an incredibly honest and candid guy, and I think you'll find it engaging. So that's going to be on Friday, and the episode or the show will be titled, obviously, Transparent. And there's a lot to be said about that on a number of different levels. So that's what's coming out of this new version of the show. And today we're going to continue to take it further, deeper, and build on some of the things that we've been talking about here over the past couple days. And I'm going to try to bring a lot of different threads together. One of the here's where I want to start, and then I have where I want to end. In the in-between, we'll get there. So one of the things that's come up here in the last 24 hours is that Planned Parenthood, this is about 2 years ago, and David Daleden and Sandra Merritt of the Center for Medical Progress, these were the people that created the Planned Parenthood videos. These were the videos where Planned Parenthood would sit down, the people, we're talking, leaders, Planned Parenthood, they were sitting down over glasses of Chardonnay and talking about what kind of deals they could make for body parts and fetuses. Oh, yeah, we can cover that. Oh, yes, these are going to be pretty much intact. Yes, intact. And you watch those videos, and they're horrific. And it's pulling the curtain back on Planned Parenthood. Now, a lot of people think that David Daleden and Sandra Merritt did something that was illegal or despicable, and they preyed upon the trust of the leaders of Planned Parenthood to divulge their information, their secrets, their dark, dark, dark secrets. And that's just not fair. That's just not fair. How could they do that? It's the same charges that are leveled against James Keefe. And, it's anytime we get into, and this is what happens with the mainstream news. And this is one of the arguments that Andrew Breitbart made over and over and over again, is that the mainstream news is selective. And they are selective. They're selective in what they edit. And the first time I really got a taste of this was back in Gulf War I. And I was watching an interview with a soldier who was there. He wasn't sure he was into it. He was trying to understand why he was there. He was having an existential moment. And he brought a saxophone, which was kind of cool. And here you've got this guy who's like kind of questioning everything. He's got a saxophone and he's blowing some jazz on the sand dunes. And CNN, which was a fledgling network at that time, ran that. I watched that. Wow, this is really interesting. Guys having a moment of conscience. And that same report came up about 6 hours later. And all of the self-doubt and all of the existential kind of reflection was gone. They had kept about 2 or 3 sentences in, and then they focused on the saxophone playing. The soulful soundtrack to decimation, desecration, and destruction. And that's when I first got my sense as to this is what the media does. This was a long time ago. It's been going on forever. Long time. Nothing new here. So the mainstream media does it. They will go in and they will selectively edit. And I'm not saying that because they do it that people like James O'Keefe or Dalton and Merritt should do the same thing, or Andrew Breitbart should have done the same thing when he did his little stunt with Shirley Sherrod. I think we need to be as naked and as accountable, as transparent as possible. But the charges here, let me read this. This is from IntelliHub. It says, longtime congressional Democrat targets Center for Medical Progress. Liberal prosecutors, this is true, liberal, they're not just prosecutors. They've got an agenda. They want to protect Planned Parenthood, and they don't want anything like this ever happening again to any vaunted institution that they are associated with. And I'm sure the right would do the same thing and protect their own assets if somebody from the left came along and exposed their bullshit. What if it was a right-leaning kind of organization? Let's say it was a oil company, and exposing what happens with fracking and getting these guys to kind of buy into, oh yeah, we love fracking. You know, number one, we get the oil. Number two, we get to go in and charge them for the cleanup. And we're making money both ways. You know, we bring the water in. You know, it's a loss leader for us. That's okay. You know, we factor that in, and that comes out in our annual loss statement, and we count that against our taxes. Now, if that happens, of course, you'd have people on the right. This cannot exist. We must shut these people down. They are a threat to industry, prosperity, free market, abundance. Everybody's got their own vested interest. This one happens to be on the left, which is why I'm saying liberal. Okay. The charges against David Dalton and Sandra Merritt of the Center for Medical Progress come just 8 months after a failed attempt at prosecution in Texas. And despite the fact that a company implicated in the undercover videos is actually under indictment for illegally selling hundreds of fetal tissue products for profit and treating human parts as commodities, Planned Parenthood is under investigation. And where's all of Trump's Sturm und Drang about Planned Parenthood and defunding them and all that BS? He'll never do it. He won't do it. He may defund, I don't know. Maybe he'll defund condoms. Sorry, Planned Parenthood. You're not going to get condoms anymore from us. We're not supplementing condoms because if you're not using a condom, you've got to be responsible. No contraceptive. Here we go. Amazingly, an Associated Press report on the charges confirms that a literal ally of Planned Parenthood is leading the investigation. State Attorney General Xavier Becerra, a longtime congressional Democrat who took over the investigation in January, said in a statement that the state will not tolerate the criminal recording of conversations. Prosecutors say Dalton of Davis, California, and Merritt of San Jose filmed 14 people without permission between October 2013 and July 2015 in Los Angeles, San Francisco, and El Dorado counties. My parents used to live in El Dorado County. One felony count was filed for each person. The 15th was for criminal conspiracy to invade privacy. Just from now on, if you're going to videotape somebody, just get them to sign a release and waiver and say, here, we're going to videotape you right now, and we're going to ask you questions about body parts and fetal parts, and we want you to be as really upfront, as honest as you can be, okay? Meanwhile, the NSA and all these other organizations, the CIA, FBI, they're wiretapping like crazy. Tap, 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 tap. Tapping on the wire. Hey, let's listen in. And when it comes to the citizen journalist or the citizen investigator, we don't get the same kind of protection. We don't get the same kind of ubiquity. And that is yet another piece of our story here. For their part, the Center for Medical Progress is already fighting back. You guys need to step up and help these people out. Center for Medical Progress. You got to help them. They need our help. Anybody that is doing citizen journalist or citizen journalism, and I don't care what side it's on. If you're on the left side and you're actually cracking something open that is meaningful and we need to hear about it, and you've got to get these guys to talk when they're just kind of babbling on. I don't care. It needs to be supported. It's the final plank for us. Free speech, freedom of information that flows in both directions is the final plank for us. Once they shut that down, we're done. We've got no voice because nobody will represent us. And the voices that do represent us are usually appointed. They're called gatekeepers. And there are plenty of them. Trust me. By the way, there's a huge shitstorm happening with Pizzagate and David Seaman and Alex Jones, and there's a whole group of YouTube. So when you look at Pizzagate, I'm going to get back to this in telehealth thing. When you look at Pizzagate, there are basically have been two figures associated with Pizzagate at a high level. One is Alex Jones. The other is this guy David Seaman. I don't trust David Seaman, by the way. I just don't. It's that beard. It doesn't look real. It's like he colors it in with something. Hey guys, I'm back again today. And I'm here to talk about Pizzagate. That's right. Anyway, there are a number of YouTubers beneath, theoretically, in terms of views and all that stuff, Seaman and Jones, who are going after both of them. And they believe both of them are gatekeepers, which I have no problem with. But that's what happens. We get these people that are kind of appointed and given to us. Oh, they've got the truth. Let's follow them for a while. Let's throw down with them, yeah. And all of a sudden it's like, oh boy, it's another one. Another one bites the dust. Okay, here we go. So, for their part, the Center for Medical Progress is already fighting back, releasing a statement late Tuesday that not only calls the charges politically motivated and bogus, but also links to a news report showing that one of the connected companies is actually facing criminal charges. The group also warned that they plan to soon release even more footage to the entire world. You see, this is why they're doing it. They want to shut them down. The bogus charges from Planned Parenthood's political cronies are fake news. They tried the same collusion with corrupt officials in Houston, Texas, and failed. Both the charges and the DA were thrown out. The public knows the real criminals are Planned Parenthood and their business partners like STEM Express and DV Biologics, currently being prosecuted in California, who have harvested and sold aborted baby body parts for profit for years in direct violation of state and federal law. We look forward to showing the entire world what is on our yet unreleased videotapes of Planned Parenthood's criminal baby body parts enterprise in vindication of the First Amendment rights of all. The statement links to an article in the OC Weekly that reveals that Da Vinci Biosciences is actually under indictment for selling off fetal tissue for profit, the exact same thing that Daleiden went undercover to expose. A father, son, and their two Yorba Linda companies suffered some recent setbacks in Orange County Superior Court when they are fighting charges of illegally selling hundreds of fetal tissue products for profit and treating human parts as commodities. David Daleiden, founder of the Irvine-based anti-abortion group Center of Medical Progress, created controversial undercover videos that connected Da Vinci Biosciences, DV Biologics, and Planned Parenthood of Orange and San Bernardino counties in March 2016. At the press conference that following October, Rakaukas, I don't know who this Rakaukas person is, said there was no evidence to support the lead's claim that the companies exchanged money with Planned Parenthood or that Planned Parenthood did anything unlawful. Okay. Amazingly, Coker reveals that the owners of the company under indictment have direct connections to failed presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. How about that? The Orange County case against the two companies became a presidential campaign issue. The political conservatives and anti-abortion activists connected to the Isaias family, connected the Isaias family to Hillary Clinton, who is, of course, a staunch supporter of women's right to choose. Various members of the family, which is based mostly in Miami, Florida, but originally hails from Ecuador, have lavished Clinton with hundreds of thousands of dollars in campaign contributions. To Coker. At this point, we have all the makings of an obvious politically motivated attack using the full power of the state of California to attack conservative activists who expose practices that the left had desperately wanted to keep the public from knowing. If the same group of people were on the left and they were exposing the oil industry through that fracking example I used, do you think the state of California would go after them? I don't think so. It doesn't matter what your stance on abortion is, whether it's pro-life or pro-choice. We need to have the fifth column. We need to have people, because the press no longer represents us. They just don't. And even the alternative media really doesn't represent us. What we really need is an alternative media, because the alternative media has been kind of taken over. If you hadn't noticed it, it's been given to us as the alternative media. We lap it up. The real alternative media is comprised of people you've never really heard of, who are out there kind of tirelessly pumping this stuff out. They're on YouTube. They've got websites. I'll tell you who's really good. You should follow him. Is this guy Dean Henderson. That guy's good. He's really smart. Follow Dean Henderson. And there's another website. It's a little controversial. It's called The Saboteur. I highly recommend it. Just saying. So we've got that. There's a lot of energy around this now. They want to shut these people down. They want to make an example. They want to have a court case that sets precedent. Once you have precedent, then it's like, you're screwed there. But there's other things going on that are kind of related to this. So there are more WikiLeaks emails coming out about John Podesta, the 10th batch, and guess what? Podesta is linked to Russia, and he's received $35 million. $35 million. And it had to do with Russia. Yep. So there's a whole bunch of WikiLeaks stuff. I'm going to give you the bullet points here. That this is the list is not exhaustive. It includes Podesta invited 30 reporters from mainstream media to his house for a dinner party. 3 days before Hillary Clinton announced her candidacy, he bragged to George Soros' pal Neera Tanden about cooking for them. Gee, I wonder what he cooked. She replied, "Great plan, great plan. Do you have any spleen? I really prefer spleen, John. How about, do you have any, you know what else I really like? I know, it's awful, but I have got a fondness for testicle, John. Okay, I got you covered. Got you covered." This is satire, by the way. She replied, "Great plan." Politico's White House political correspondent, senior staff writer, Glenn Thrush, actually showed his article to be proofed and edited by Podesta prior to publishing. To Podesta, Thrush wrote, "Because I have become a hack, I will send you the whole section that pertains to you. Please don't share or tell anyone I did this. Tell me if I effed up anything." My God, these people have journalism degrees, they're writing for websites, and they're sending their copy in to be proofed. Podesta, these are all in the emails. Podesta was disappointed that the San Bernardino terrorist was a Muslim man. Wished he'd been white. And it goes on and on. Podesta facilitated meetings between Eric Schmidt and Robbie Mook and Cheryl Mills. I mean, this should have just been called Podesta Leaks. So that's the old stuff. Here's the new stuff. I just want to get into this a little bit here. Hold on. So Trump has said, watch at Fox Friends Now on Podesta in Russia. So it says, this is from the Daily Caller. John Podesta, former Secretary of State of Hillary Clinton's 2016 national campaign term, may have violated federal law by failing to disclose the receipt of 75,000 shares of stock from a Kremlin-financed company when he joined the Obama White House in 2014. A lot of times, like if you really drill down and look at what Congress people and senators, and he is not a congressperson or a senator, but the perks that are available to them, one of the biggest perks is insider trading. And some of you know this, but in case you didn't, if you're a congressperson or a senator, you get to indulge in insider trading. So if somebody has a product, let's say it was a cure for toenail fungus, but it's the best cure ever. You don't have to take one pill. Boom, done. Cures toenail fungus for 3 to 5 years. And you know about that, and you know this toenail fungus cure is going to explode. You can buy stock in that company, and there's no penalty. Think about that. There is no penalty. This is why people want to get into the White House. One of the reasons, you could amass such a fortune by being a congressperson or a senator, it's not even funny because of what's available to you. What do you really have to do? You have to walk, cruise around, go to a school opening every now and then, talk to a few people here and there, placate your constituency every now and then, take a little shit every now and then, sell your soul to Baphomet. It's not a big deal. You get those perks. Joule Unlimited Technologies, financed by a Russian firm, originally awarded Podesta 100,000 shares of stock options. When in 2010 he joined that board with its Dutch-based entities, Joule Global Holdings, BV, and the Stichting Joule Global Foundation. When Podesta announced his departure from the Joule board in January 2014 to become President Obama's special counselor, the company officially issued 75,000 common shares of stock. So, talk about Russian connections. We've got John Podesta on tap for that. Where's the real news on that? Where's the real news on that? It's really important that we understand what's happening. And I think the vice grip is getting tighter and tighter and tighter. It's getting tighter and tighter. And we may not be able to see it from a legal perspective where this law is passed and this law is passed, although that will probably come at some point. These powers are increased, and the next thing you know, what's left for us is crumbs, really. And we may not see those things happening right now in real time, but we can feel them. We can feel it. Because inasmuch as we've been altered, we've been tweaked, we've been mutated, we've been injected with synthetic sentience to some degree, we're still human. We still have instincts. We still have a heart, and it beats. And we still, for the time being, feel. And some of the things we feel, we cannot always have a correlative in the world of logic or facts. or fact-based evidence. It's what we feel. So I wanted to kind of end today with this article because it's really important, and it gives us a sense of where we are and what I think the greatest challenge is. Besides keeping the truth valve open, this is from a website called Malden Economics. And this is by John Malden. He's an economic analyst. And the piece is titled, Americans Once Known for Their Optimism Are Losing Hope. He writes, angst is a feeling of anxiety, apprehension, or insecurity. Many of us feel it acutely right now, and that's new. No, it's really not new, John. Some of us have been feeling this for decades, but that's okay. Angst isn't a temporary individual thing anymore. Now we all feel it together, or at least most of us do, and it's not at all temporary. I've touched on this before, but it's no wonder that so much of our angst is job-related. Some people don't have jobs at all, while many others don't like the jobs they have. The millions of unemployed, underemployed, or unhappily employed touch all of us in some way. If our nation's work rate were back up to its start of the century high, well over 10 million more Americans would now have paying jobs. How about that? We've lost 10 million paying jobs since the start of the 2000s. And that employment shortfall makes a real difference to the growth of the economy. There are only two ways to grow the economy. You either have to grow the number of people working, so you have more people working shit jobs, okay? Or you have to increase their productivity. Well, maybe more people working just regular jobs. That's true. But if it takes, let's say, a million people to be working 35 to 40 hours a week and having full-time salaries and benefits, and those jobs aren't there, it takes probably about 2.5 million people to work shit jobs in order to make up the shortfall. Am I right? Yeah. Maybe that's why, well, that's a whole different topic. If you remove 10 million Americans from the labor force, not only are they not producing anything, the vast majority of them are clearly consuming the fruits of the labor of those who are employed. The number of people dropping out of the labor force is increasing. If that trend is not turned around, the hope that we will get back to 3% GDP is just wishful thinking. Couple that trend with reduced productivity, and we will be lucky to see even 2% growth for the rest of the decade. If we have a recession, we will end up with a lower GDP than we have today. Think about that and then plug it into federal budget projections. Employers lack qualified workforce. Meanwhile, employers feel a different kind of angst. Many either can't find qualified workers or their workers require constant attention and extensive training to be productive. Neither side of the labor management divide is happy with the arrangements. Everybody is apprehensive about the future. The common complaint from businessmen is that not that they need more capital and the ability to borrow money from banks, but they need more good workers in order to attract more good customers. Well, that's an interesting comment. The result is Trump. The widespread angst amongst employers, employees, and those who aren't working is one big reason Donald Trump is now president. He paid attention to a large group of voters that others ignored, spoke to their anxieties, and won the White House. It was not simply working-class white males that he appealed to. That is far too simplistic analysis. It was also their bosses, spouses, parents, and friends. A huge swath of the country was experiencing a yawning disconnect between the reality of their daily lives and the supposedly growing economy touted by politicians and media pundits. Yes, it's cognitive dissonance. We focus on the anxiety of the white working class male, but I challenge you to find me an identity group that isn't anxious and concerned that things aren't heading in the right direction. American culture used to be known for its optimism, its can-do spirit. That quality hasn't vanished, but it has surely lost some of its luster this century. You can see it fading in the statistics about the number of new business startups, which is now less than the number of businesses closing down. And that trend has been taking place for almost a decade. The hope that the situation was temporary probably let the people tolerate much worse conditions than they should have. You can only look on the bright side for so long before you get tired of waiting. Now, he's entering into the realm of being really clear and lucid and practical. And I believe that whether you're on the right side or the left side, the hope for America, the feeling that we can make something happen in our lives, in our own lives, and make a difference in our own lives, and the country itself can make a difference in the world, it's being bombarded and mortared every single day. Every single day. If there's a war going on in places like Mosul, it used to be Aleppo, and that ended. Now it's Mosul. It's kind of it's kind of like a progressive dinner. Once they're done with Mosul, there'll be some other place. Who knows? Who knows where? Yemen. They just need to keep finding new places. Their progressive death dinner. But while that's happening in the real world, theoretically, the real world over there, we don't see it, but it's happening. There's a similar war going on here. And it's not a war that's being fired by bazookas or missiles or mortars or handheld rocket launchers. The war that's taking place is a war in our consciousness. And we're being shelled every single day, incoming. There's this, and then there's this, and then there's this. You know what? And maybe I contribute to some of that. I don't know. But what I try to do is I try to untangle it so that we can deflect some of this stuff and to kind of retain a sense of optimism or hope. And it's really an interesting exercise for me because when I was growing up, I was the most disaffected and cynical kid. And I still have touches of cynicism. My humor is quite dark if you haven't noticed it already. One of the things that Chris, who'll be joining me on Friday to talk about his child, he sent me an email with an interview with this guy, Yuri Bezmenov. And it's one of the most important interviews of the 20th century. And he's a former KGB guy, and he's talking about what the KGB in Russia is going to do to the United States and how they're going to basically take over the United States without even firing a shot. And one of the things that he talks about is demoralization. And we have been on a deep program of demoralization since the 1960s. Started with Kennedy. The Kennedy assassination started us off on a dark path of demoralization. And it's continued to be that way. And this is why Obama was so popular, because here we had 8 years of the incredibly demoralizing Bush neocon administration. And Obama pops on the scene, kind of fresh, doesn't have a whole lot of, at least, obvious skeletons in his closet. But he comes onto the scene. He's talking hope, he's talking change, and he's talking how he can feel the pain. He's going to be the healer. He's going to be the Chiron of the political system. And everybody lined up behind him because people were hungry. People needed hope. They needed change. Because the political system, corporate system, and industry had abandoned all of that. And that's why Obama was so successful, at least in terms of claiming office. What he did once he got in was, in my estimation, one of the greatest acts of betrayal in the history of the country. And maybe Donald Trump will follow right along and continue in that tradition of betrayal. We shall see. Again, with Trump, we've had some good. We've had some really not so good. And we have to be honest about that. We cannot, sugarcoat it and blow sunshine up your butt. It's not going to happen that way. But it's this process of demoralization because we're under attack 24/7. 24/7. And we're in a siege mentality, if you really think about it. And if you aren't plugging into it, if you are sticking your head in the sand, or you're saying, well, I create my own reality, I mean, there's some truth to that. I understand why people would want to do it. Because the political stuff is so messy and bloody, and now we're getting into just the dark kind of satanic phase of politics and power and predation. And who wants to Like, delve into that. It's not inspiring. And yet, unfortunately, because we've turned our heads and averted our gaze for a very long time, it's festered and it's gotten bigger and stronger. And now it's in our face. And we can't not look away. That's where we are now. And even if you're not engaged in trying to understand where we are and maintain a sense of hope and optimism and energy in spite of it all, if you're not doing that, you're feeling it. I'm telling you, it's in the air. I remember many years ago, I was at this intentional community called High Wind in just above Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It was in Plymouth, I believe. And I was meditating on the Antichrist. This was around 1986, I think. And I was meditating on the Antichrist, and I realized that the Antichrist was an energy. At least one version of it. And it wasn't the embodiment of a person, but it was an energy that permutated everything. And I kind of felt into it. Let me tell you, it kind of feels like what it feels like today. That sense of something in the air that is not really all that benevolent. And yet, it is up to us to anchor something deeper and stronger and more loving and to a large degree more optimistic. And so we have to continue to plow through this. And we have to affirm every single day. And it is not fool's gold. It is really what keeps us alive. We have to affirm every single day our humanity, our divinity, and we cannot let other people or entities snatch it away from us. Because that's our true power. When people say, oh, you give your power away. I gave my power away. What are you giving away? What you're giving away is you're giving away your sacred right to your personal sovereignty between you and your creator, God, whatever. That's it. You give that away and then you become divested of that. And we do it all the time. And what's great about now is that when we do it, we become aware of it and we don't like it. Like I had an interaction recently, it was last week, and I was dealing with my son's baseball coach, who's a really good guy. I like the guy, and he runs a good operation. And I was trying to get us these Saturday practices where we could get together every other Saturday with the team. And it was really weird because I didn't want to step on his toes or anything. It's like he's running a program, and he got within one cup of coffee playing Major League Baseball, and I felt like I was about a 13-year-old kid asking Dad to use the field. It was weird. Okay, I'm being upfront and honest. And and we got the field and everything. I was like, but why? Why did I feel like I was about 13 years old trying to use this field? I'm like, wow, I got some work to do. I've got some work to do down here. That didn't really feel very good. What was I trying to, where's this coming from? Because if we are clear in our motive, then it becomes easier. We don't have any kind of hang-ups or snags or cognitive dissonance, which I was clearly experiencing in that moment. What was my motive? And I need to look at that. You get your motive down, you get your intention down, and it's fine. You can you just stay there. Get clear on it. This is this level of co-creation that we have at our disposal. And we've got to just do this every single day. Because if we don't, the game is over. We may as well all just walk into, these FEMA. We should all just Google Map, the FEMA camps, just all show up there. Are you ready? Yeah, okay, let's go. We're here. We may as well just jump in. So we have to retain this level and affirm it every single day. It's work. It's not easy. But what is the alternative? What is the alternative? I think we know what the alternative is, and it's not good. And at the end of the day, will it matter? Will it make a difference? We don't know. And that's part of life. I had a client yesterday, a lovely woman, in a big transition. And sometimes when people hire me to work with them, they want to change right there in that moment. And I can't always deliver that because that's not how this works at times. Sometimes we're in a process, and the process is a mystery. And there is more to it than just me mapping something out. I am not, I'm not omniscient. And so bringing it back to this conversation, we don't know. We don't know how things affect other people. We don't know when we meet somebody or somebody does something for us or we say something, how it's going to affect the whole. Any real, meaningful vision of tomorrow is made up of millions of small, conscious acts. That's it. To the best of our ability. To the best of our ability. All right, why don't we leave it there? I went over a bit today, and I apologize. Some people like to have their little shot of espresso and move on. But got a little bit of a late start, and I guess I kind of added to it just a little bit. 12 minutes over the mark. It's okay. We're going to get back to 30 minutes tomorrow. I promise. It's Robert Phoenix, and this has been your 15 Minutes of Flame. I'll see everyone tomorrow, 9 a.m., right here, Central Standard Time, Austin, Texas.